Hope Donald Trump and my Americans realize sooner that ego is a very dangerous self-destructive weapon. Ego is invisible. You can't hold it, but it can burn cities. You can't see it, but it can sink nations. It starts quietly, masked as confidence, ambition, patriotism. But unchecked, ego becomes a fire that consumes everything around it. He was more than a general. He was a symbol of revolution, of brilliance, of destiny. Napoleon Bonaparte rose from the ashes of a crumbling monarchy and promised to give France something greater: order, power, pride. And for a time, he delivered. He won battles few thought he could. He rewrote laws, reshaped governments, and spread fear across Europe. But then came the moment that said everything, when he crowned himself Emperor of France. Not the Pope, not tradition. He placed the crown on his own head. It wasn't just a ceremony. It was a declaration. I am above them all. From there, his ego marched with him into Austria, Prussia, Italy, and then, against all caution, into Russia. A winter campaign fueled not by logic or strategy, but by pride. 600,000 soldiers went in. Less than 100,000 came back. Frozen, broken, forgotten. He was warned. But when a man believes he is destiny itself, he listens to no one, not even history. And in the end, the man who built an empire with brilliance lost it to his own ego. Adolf Hitler, he didn't seize power overnight. He studied crowds, mastered messaging. He didn't just speak, he hypnotized. He didn't just lead, he demanded devotion. Adolf Hitler rose in a broken Germany, a country humiliated by war, shattered by debt, desperate for hope, and he offered something simple, seductive, and dangerous. It's not your fault, it's them. I alone can fix it. At first he promised revival, economic strength, national pride. But beneath it all was something far more corrosive: ego. A belief not just in his mission, but in his superiority. He silenced dissenters, banned opposing views, burned books before he burned cities. He surrounded himself with yes-men, lived in his own echo chamber, and as his armies marched across Europe, he convinced himself that no one could stop him. When his own generals urged caution, he ignored them. When losses piled up, he doubled down. Retreat? Never. Negotiate? Weakness. Admit defeat? Impossible. By the end, the world lay in ruins. 70 million people dead, entire communities erased. And even as his empire crumbled, his ego stood tall, right until the very last second in his bunker. He didn't die a martyr. He died a man so consumed by ego that he dragged millions into the grave with him. That's the cost of unchecked arrogance. That's the legacy of a leader who couldn't see past his own reflection. Donald Trump didn't emerge from war or revolution. He came from gold-plated towers, reality TV, and a craving for the spotlight. He didn't campaign like a politician. He performed like a showman, loud, defiant, unfiltered, and millions loved him for it. He promised greatness, strength, power. But behind the slogans was a fragile truth. He didn't want to lead. He wanted to win. He attacked the press, mocked opponents, praised dictators, and insisted he alone could fix it all. But when the 2020 election didn't go his way, he didn't accept the will of the people. He claimed it was stolen. He launched lawsuits, conspiracies, and tweets drenched in denial. And then, on January 6, 2021, the consequence of ego came crashing down. The Capitol was breached, not just by rioters, but by years of unchecked rage, lies, and narcissism. Today, in 2025, Trump is not quieter, he is louder, still mocking judges, still bullying his rivals, still calling journalists enemies of the people, still making everything about him. He doesn't just challenge institutions, he bends them. And his followers, they echo him. Because that's what ego does. It doesn't just infect one man. It becomes contagious. He no longer speaks for the nation. He speaks at it, angrily, desperately, like a man who can't live without applause. He's not fighting for democracy. He's fighting to protect the only thing that matters to him, his pride. And just like those before him, he cannot lose. Not because of the country, but because of who he believes he is. Ego isn't new. It wore the crown of King Louis XIV, who famously declared, "I am the state." It whispered to Joseph Stalin, who erased history books to preserve his image. It fueled Benito Mussolini, who dragged Italy into chaos. It possessed Muammar Gaddafi, who ruled for decades, until he fell, still believing the people loved him. These men didn't just crave power, they craved control of narratives, control of truth. They surrounded themselves with loyalists and silenced anyone who dared question them. And when reality finally pushed back, they didn't back down. They took everyone with them. But here's the truth that history always shows us. Ego doesn't rise alone. It grows in silence, it thrives in obedience, it feeds on the fear of speaking up and the convenience of looking away. No dictator ever ruled without crowds who clapped. No empire ever fell without citizens who waited too long to resist. Democracy doesn't die with a bang, it dies with a shrug. Conclusion. So hope Donald Trump and my fellow Americans realize sooner that ego is a dangerous, self-destructive weapon. One man's pride can become everyone's price. And history has no shortage of cautionary tales. We can ignore them, or we can learn from them before it's too late. Like, share, and subscribe if you believe history shouldn't just be remembered, it should be understood. Because the next chapter is being written right now, and silence is never neutral.